Hellverine, issue number 2 from Marvel Comics. So, in the last issue, we ended up with Dakin going to the North Pole, and that's how this issue starts. And I just want to say, I am going to be referring to him as Dakin. I know his name is Akihiro, but Dakin is just easier for me to say, so I'm just going to say it, even though he doesn't go by that name anymore. But yeah, he's at the North Pole. He's talking about how this is where his life ended and where his new life began. And basically, it's because this is where Sabretooth killed him and murdered him. But this is also where BAGRA-GHUL the demon took over his body and reanimated it and brought it back to life. And he comes across this base that was built by the X-Force after Krakoa was destroyed. And he's just checking out this base. And we have a very John Carpenter's A Thing kind of going on, where the base is just completely abandoned. But it's almost like everyone just got up and ran for it. We still see like food and stuff on the table. We see paper scattered everywhere. We see clothes left behind. It's almost like people just grabbed what they could and just left. He eventually finds this mutilated dead body, and that's when he ends up getting attacked by someone. And it turns out that this is immune. His name is Evan. He has fire powers, and he was worried that Dakin was one of them. But he knows that Dakin's immune, so he believes that Dakin is someone he can trust. And so Dakin uses his powers to basically see what the hell happened. He basically uses his powers to get into Evan's mind, and he sees what life was like before whatever happened. So Evan is watching this girl. Her name is Celine. She liked to go hunting for animals so that she can bring back, feed everybody. And Evan would go with her every once in a while. And eventually they discovered this pit. It was just like a huge hole in the ground surrounded by dead animals and fire coming out of it. And somehow this was like drawing people to it. Like Celine basically almost became like mesmerized, and she ended up throwing herself into the pit. And everyone was able to pull her out, but she had already sustained a bunch of like burns and stuff. And he was like, it was fine at first. Like sometimes she would be herself, but then eventually like weird things just started happening. Like it looks like we have one moment where she's like shooting maybe bugs or something out of her mouth. She started attacking some of the other mutants and biting them. And eventually, Evan was forced to kill her. Everyone, I guess, who wasn't killed just ended up leaving. Like it's kind of just not fully explained what happened after that. But I guess maybe whatever this thing was, it was almost like a demonic parasite, where like if it bit you, maybe it infected you with something. It's kind of weird because he explains that after he killed Celine, he hid and he heard screams and stuff. So it's kind of like, okay, so then did everyone else die? If everyone else died, where are they? Because we don't see their bodies or anything like that. Evan decides, okay, I'll go show you where everyone's. I'll go show you the pit. And he goes to the pit, and there's this giant like skeletal monument. So maybe these are the bones of everybody else. Which then just begs the question, who killed everyone else and who built this sculpture out of bones? Because again, we don't see anything from Evan's flashback. All we see what happens to Celine. We see her falling into the pit. We see him dragging her back to the base. We see her attacking one of her fellow mutants. And we see him being forced to kill her. And then he just says he went and hid himself. And then there was screams. So something had come to attack this base. And Dakin basically says that this is basically a gateway. This is a door to hell, and hell is coming through it, and I have to stop it. And we see what looks like burnt victims coming out of the hole to attack Dakin. They also end up attacking Evan. And the two of them have to fight off these creatures and destroy this pit. Seal it so that no more demonic forces can escape hell into our world. I'm going to stop it there. I don't want to spoil everything. I will say that this was an okay issue. The artwork is kind of hit or miss. Like at times it seems to be kind of fine, and then at other times like faces just look weird, and just like some of the panels don't seem very dynamic. Like we have this one panel where like right here we have one of the creatures attacking Dakin, and I don't know, it looks more goofy than anything. Like I don't really feel like there's a lot of like energy in this panel. Like this thing is like diving at him, but it just feels like it's posing in the air. Like it feels just very static. And that's how like a lot of these panels in this issue is, as you've seen, because I've been showing you panels as I've been talking about this issue. It seems very lifeless. It doesn't seem very energetic. It just feels almost like they're just characters posed onto a page, if that makes any sense, which is kind of a shame. Like the actual drawings themselves are okay, Again, sometimes like the faces are kind of off and things, but it's just like it's like the foundations are there, but the execution isn't. Like it just seems very lifeless. In the story itself, I don't know. It's not Benjamin Percy's best, I would say. I like some of the things that are going on here, but I don't know. Maybe it feels like this issue should have been longer. Like maybe split up what happens here into 2 issues. Like we could have had a whole like horror thing going down where we have Dakin going into this base and he's exploring it for longer, and we see just like signs of life that was there but is not anymore. Like we see more things where it looks like people just disappeared out of nowhere. Like they were in the middle of something, they just disappeared. We could have had some horror moments where he like hears noises and stuff like that, and he's like trying to figure out, okay, what the hell happened? Like what are these noises? Where is everybody? How's this place just completely abandoned? And then we could have ended it with him discovering the body of Celine and something moving up behind him. And that could have been the cliffhanger. And then the next issue could have been Evan, and then we get more of a story there. I know like I've complained about other series in the past where I feel like they're too slow. I feel like this is almost not necessarily too fast, but it feels like things happen and we're just going from one thing to the next, and I don't really care, if that makes any sense. I just think we could have built up the feeling of like isolation and just mystery a lot more. And I feel like the interactions between Dakin and Evan, it could have been built more. We could have maybe had Evan telling the story rather than Dakin just using his powers to just see the memories. Maybe Evan could have explained the story, and as he's explaining, we get flashback, and we could see, like, since Evan's telling the story, he can put his own, like, here's what I was feeling as this was going down. And basically, we see things through his point of view rather than we see Dakin narrating what he's seeing Evan doing, if that makes sense. I guess take a shot every time I say if that makes sense for this video, because I feel like I'm saying it a lot. But yeah, it feels like there's like good ideas here, and it's just not fully executed to its full potential, and it just makes it kind of a bummer. I'd give this like a 5 out of 10 for this issue. Said it was good before, but the more I think about it, I'd say it's just kind of average. It's not terrible or anything like that, but I wouldn't say it's better than average. Which again, it kind of sucks because I've enjoyed Benjamin Percy's like recent stuff. Like I basically reviewed all his Ghostwriter stuff that he did in the last year or two, and it was really good. And even though I hated the idea for the Hood as the Ghostwriter, I thought he did like the best job you can with that terrible premise. And now with Hellverine, it seems like this could be a very interesting idea for a story. Like we're basically resurrecting Dakin, and we're bringing him back from the dead as a spirit of vengeance, but also while being possessed by a demon. So we could like do 2 things here. We can have Dakin, like how does he feel now that he's not even really human anymore? Like he's not human, he's not immune. Like he shouldn't exist. He should be dead, but he's not. He's back. So that's one conflict that he can have. The other is the fact that he's inhabited by the spirit of vengeance, which wants to do good. And then the other is that he's the host for BAGRA-GHUL, a demon under Mephisto, whose sole purpose is murdering people and turning their corpses into artwork. So he has like the spirit of good, but also like a spirit of evil within him, battling for control over his body, his dead, reanimated body. So you could have like a bunch of internal conflicts and stuff. And I feel like we're just not really going too much into them. Like Johnny with his like internal monologue and stuff like that. Like we had more with Johnny than we do with Dakin. I feel like Dakin should have more emotional baggage just with all the things I just mentioned. Like he's literally like a reanimated corpse brought back to life, which should already feel very, very isolating. Then you add the fact that he's battling between a spirit trying to fight evil and then an actual evil demon sharing his body. So now it's basically like you have 3 different entities inside this body. You have Dakin, you have Spirit of Vengeance, and you have BAGRA-GHUL, all trying to fight for control. Like that could be a really cool internal conflict, but it's kind of mentioned, but it doesn't really explore that idea as much as it could. So yeah, I feel like this series so far is kind of a letdown. I'm hoping that Benjamin Percy turns things around, because there's a lot of cool ideas here, but I don't feel like they're executed as much as they could be. And so, yeah, I hope that changes. But that's Hellverine, issue number 2 by Marvel Comics. It's average. There's a lot of promise here, but it's not fully executed. And I feel like that's how it is all around. Like, the artwork has potential, but it's not reaching that potential. And the writing has potential, but it's not reaching that potential, like the storytelling. So this is basically a series with a lot of potential that's just not reaching that potential. But hopefully that changes. I guess we'll see. But I hope you enjoyed the video, and I hope to see you next time. Take care. Later. Thank you for watching my video. I hope you enjoyed it. If you didn't, I still want to thank you for watching it this far, and I hope the next one is more to your liking. With that said, thank you once again, and I hope you guys and gals have a good one. Later.